Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back. This is Frank Agin. You're listening to the Networking RX podcast. I am the founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Today I want to share a little bit of details, some other things that I've been working on. For those who know, AmSpirit Business Connections is a membership-based organization. It's for-profit. We help small businesses and professionals get more referrals through this program, and I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail on that. I've been doing it for a lot of years. I've been involved in one form or another since 1995. You do the math. Depending upon when you're listening to this, I have really no intention of slowing down or stopping or selling or whatever. I've got an exit plan. I'm not going to get into it here. I will get into it with my wife and my franchisees as we move along. But anyhow, back in 2014, I was looking for something additional to do. I've been very involved. I'm a big proponent of volunteerism. I'm a big proponent of being involved in the community, and I have been involved in our community in one form or another for a long time. It started probably back in 2001 when I got, volunteered to be part of the athletic association at my kids' school. They went to a Catholic elementary and middle school, and they have a athletic association. I didn't know a whole lot about it when I got involved. I played sports. I enjoy watching sports. I like sports. I just always envisioned that my kids would play sports, and so I got involved, and that led me into becoming its president. This was long before my kids ever participated. There was a leadership void there. They asked me to fill it, and I did, and I served in that role for the better part of 10 years, and that ended in 2014. And so at least the presidency ended in 2014. So I was involved for a long time with that organization, but also was involved with there was a community pool. I was on the pool board. I was involved with Youth Soccer Association here in town. My kids played there as well. And my kids were rolling out of these activities. We weren't going to the pool anymore. Actually, the city took over the pool, which was great. But was looking for something to do because I wanted to be involved, and just didn't really know what. And the whole notion of committing one direction or another with respect to something charitable, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to commit one way or the other. Homelessness is important. Cancer charities are important. Human trafficking is important. Literacy is important. Youth sports are important. There's lots of things that are important. I really didn't know what direction I wanted to turn. So what I did was I really started to reflect upon what I was doing with AmSpirit Business Connections. Bringing together entrepreneurs, sales reps, professionals, having them develop relationships, learn about each other, and through that process exchange referrals. And it's arguably very successful as we continue to grow across the United States. And I just wondered to myself, I wonder if there was, I don't want to say a market, if there would be a need, or if there would be some value in just bringing together not-for-profits, because I knew people who had not-for-profits, so finding something to be involved with was not going to be an issue. It's just a question of, did I want to commit myself in one direction or another? And I really, in my heart of hearts, didn't want to. So what I did was I reached out to the people that I knew who were involved in not-for-profits, and there were a handful. There were a handful of people that I knew were involved. Brian Wallenberg with the Byron Saunders Foundation. They feed people at Thanksgiving, and through their efforts, give out anywhere between 3,500 and 5,000 meals a year in the Central Ohio area. Gary Chisholm, somebody I knew through AmSpirit Business Connections, was involved with the Granville City Schools in the robotics program, helping kids with the robotics, creating teams, and it was very volunteer. And his kids had gone through it, and even though his kids had graduated, he continued to be involved. I'd met I've met a number of people. Once the word got out, the types of things that I wanted to do, there were others who kind of came to the surface. At any rate, what I did is I reached out to a few of these people and just said, "Hey, listen, would you be interested in just coming together for a meeting? Don't really know what this looks like. Just come on and let's have lunch." And so we sat down, and this was January. It was the second January. The second January. It was the second Friday of January in 2015. I kind of planned this on the leading up to this. It was the second Friday in January 2015, and we all met at a restaurant, Scramblers, in North Hamilton Road, for those who are familiar with the Columbus area, and sat down. And there was probably only 4 or 5 people, and some I didn't know at all. They were referred to others. I had kind of shared my vision as to what I was trying to do. And I guess I use the term vision very loosely because I wasn't exactly sure what I was trying to do. And so we got together, and I basically told the people that were there, some knew me and some didn't. And I just said, "Listen, I don't know. I don't know where this is going, but I sense that the biggest problem that most not-for-profits have is money, is funding. That's the number one problem that they have. And I don't want to really talk about that here because I think that would be an uncomfortable conversation. People don't want to. There's only so much money out there, only so many donor dollars. So I don't want to head into that conversation, but I said there are other problems that people deal with in not-for-profits. There's lots of problems in business. Let's talk about them. My thinking was this, is that if you have a problem and you share that problem, somebody else sitting around the table has likely solved it. Maybe not perfectly, but they've likely solved it, or they have some insight. And so that was kind of the genesis of what became, or what is, the Charitable Roundtable. In that meeting, people shared about the issues that they had, things that they were dealing with. And money was an issue. Money is an issue. Money will always be an issue. Money's an issue in business, so we don't need to kid ourselves that there's just something special to not-for-profits, this money problem. Money's problem. Money. Everybody's got a money problem out there. Nobody has enough money. And I wasn't surprised that people weren't willing to share, but I was really surprised at just the breadth of the things that really were complicating for not-for-profits and they had questions about. And so it was a very, again, there's only 4 or 5 people sitting around the table outside of me. It was a very robust conversation, and there was a lot of learning that was going on. Oh, you're wrestling with this. You ought to, we did this last year, and you need to do X, Y, and Z. Oh, I didn't realize that. And that was the birth of the Charitable Roundtable. And in time, money has come up. I mean, they're less uncomfortable about it than I would have thought. There's lots of sources of money out there where you only get so much, right? It's not like during the beginning stages of the COVID lockdown, monies became available at all levels of government. And I saw information going out to within the not-for-profit community that the Charitable Roundtable has become, saying, hey, you can get $1,500 here, or you can get $10,000 here. I've got mine, go get yours, kind of a thing. So it wasn't this scarcity thing where, geez, if I let other people know, then I'll get less. The monies were being rationed. And the reality of it is that there are only so many donor dollars out there, but there's still plenty of donor dollars, and they're all focused in different directions. For example, you might have an organization that's really focused on literacy, and so they're not going to be giving monies to the Byron Saunders Foundation, because feeding people at Thanksgiving, arguably there's a connection there, but generally speaking, there's not a connection, and it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, so people could be alerting one another to different types of things that were out there. And so fast forward to today, I'm recording this in November 2021, second Friday of every month, with a couple exceptions. Good Friday fell on the second Friday. We would avoid that and either go with the first Friday or the third Friday. But second Friday of the month, we have the Charitable Roundtable. And we've covered all sorts of things related to, certainly fundraising, talking about fundraising. I had an individual on, Brian Bashan, he was on this podcast, who talked about, raising money. He worked for New York University Medical School and one of the largest medical schools in Canada as well, raising money, big dollars, billions of dollars. And he came in and did a program on that and gave people to think about with respect to thinking bigger. But we've had other things that have come up that we've tried to tackle through this is, things related to governance, all aspects, relative to the leadership of the organization, at its highest level, the board, which really operates as a fiduciary for the organization. That was, certainly part of it. There were conversations around strategic planning, policy development, mission development. People will put together a not-for-profit, and they're no different than businesses. Money's an issue, and expenses are an issue, and staying focused is an issue, and keeping people on task, and making sure people are doing the things they're supposed to be doing. And so there's lots of governance types of things that the organization needs to keep focused on, and that's not always easy. The internal or the external communication of things. Delivery of programs. A topic I'd never heard before, but what they call creep. Doing creep assessments is to making sure that you're staying in the lane that you're designed to stay in. Sometimes it can be easy, and this happens in business as well. It can be easy to start moving over into another area because it just seems that there's more dollars or more interest or more whatever, and you just have to say, wait a minute, we need to stay in our lane. And for not-for-profits, that's important. When you're a for-profit organization, you can incorporate for any lawful purpose, air quotes. And so if you are selling widgets and decide that you want to get away from widgets and want to start selling, the antithesis of widgets, you're able to. Whereas with not-for-profits, you incorporate and you have to designate what your purpose is on the front end. So it's important that you don't creep away from that, because you run the risk of losing your not-for-profit status. Other things we talk about, marketing, communication, messaging, networking, public relations, branding, people's websites, media relations. We had somebody come in and talk about media relations and how to get press. All sorts of information, all the aspects about bringing awareness to the organization and promoting the not-for-profit brand. And then we had conversations, had issues, wrestled with issues around administrative and operational type things, which is different than the government governmental stuff is, the governance stuff is a very high level. We've got to plot and scheme what this is going to be, and the administrative and operation is really kind of the execution. The conducting of the mission of the organization. So you start getting into things like grant writing and event planning, utilizing social media, ways of communicating, plan giving, cash management, making sure what are your forever dollars, meaning your endowment type things, getting those things set up, reporting to donors, creating asset donation programs where somebody can give an automobile or commercial assets or a house that you can sell. Those are other areas that are of big concern to not-for-profits. And some organizations have solved them or execute on them very well, and others struggle. And it's no different than in business. It's really no different than in business. And then the last area we really kind of talk about are compliance type things, legal type matters, being insured, having insurance. You're a not-for-profit and it feels good. You still have to have insurance. Still things go wrong. You still can be sued. You've got to have accounting and bookkeeping practices in place, and there are software applications that that not-for-profits can take advantage of. They just because it's a feel-good thing doesn't mean you don't have to report to anybody. Actually, you have to report to more people, depending upon the state and depending upon what it is that you're doing. Especially if you're taking charitable contributions, you've got to be focused on these things. So I just wanted to take some time. That's what the Charitable Roundtable is all about. If you know of a not-for-profit organization, generally a charitable organization, or even a social initiative, somebody who has got a for-profit business but would like to, but it's got a kind of a feel-good sense to it, we involve them as well. But certainly refer them on to me, and I'll get them involved in the Charitable Roundtable. We have it's a monthly call now. It's we've gone from in person to the lockdown sent us on Zoom, which was a bad thing. We have some challenges we need to deal with respect to that. But it's a good thing because we have people who are involved from all over the country now. Whereas in the past, somebody might reach out to me about the Charitable Roundtable, and I might say, yeah, you should do it in your neck of the woods, and hope that they would, but know that they probably wouldn't. And now I can just say, why don't you come on into our call, and you can meet some wonderful people and learn from individuals. So there have literally been people on from as far east as Long Island, New York, as far west as Portland, Oregon. I've had people on from the UK. So lots of interest, lots of topics, lots of good things have come from the Charitable Roundtable, and it's there, and it's. I'm not supposed to say anything's free because that cheapens it, I guess. But there is no cost associated with it. Anything that's ever been needed, somebody has stepped forward and donated. Zoom or whatever it is, people just contribute their time. So just wanted to fire that out there, and it's just kind of something I have done to give back. And if you can help with that, that would be wonderful. Or if you want to do something on your own, go for it. I would recommend that you do it.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.